Are you up?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we are back from closed session at 7:04, and in closed there was no action taken. So with that, so we're reconvening at 7:04. Sorry. I guess that. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so next we'll move on to minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 21st meeting?
I move to approve the October 21st, 2025 meeting minutes.
Okay, may I please have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'll abstain. I'm going to abstain since I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, are there any audience members to address by the public? Nope. Okay. So next we'll move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you, Ms. Huff, Board of Trustees. Thank you. This evening, I'd like to just offer up a consolidated superintendent's report. I know we have a CAS report a little later where I'll expand on some of our more academic or learning related topics, but wanted to start with just some key events that have happened really since our last board meeting. I'd like to start. I know it's been a little while, but I know that we discussed it very briefly, but wanted to really highlight our Mesa Carnival on the 17th, Friday, October 17th. Just a annual wonderful community event, very well attended this year. I know that some of our trustees made mention, and several absolutely were in attendance. So thank you for that, either as volunteers or just parents, community members. And so very grateful to our PFO board in particular. They really were wonderful spearheading, getting out in front of things very early, eliciting a lot of additional volunteer support from parents and families, of course, to those family volunteers and to our staff volunteers. And in certain instances, they are playing dual roles because many of our staff members are, in fact, current parents here. So all in all, it was just a wonderful event that appears to have come together really, really nicely. And we were very fortunate to have some fair weather and just a nice event that went through with very little that wasn't anticipated. Everything went pretty much according to plan. Also want to highlight our student volunteers, kids from not just our CJSF, but also our alum that are high school or young adults who came back and volunteered at our different posts or just were present here to provide that older student or older teenage presence that I think are, it's just a wonderful reminder that our kids still have a fondness and hopefully find us to be a good place for them years after their time here is done. Next, I wanted to highlight just an 8th grade visit that actually happened on the 31st for our 8th grade students. And that happened to Cal State University Channel Islands. This is part of our college and career initiative. It's become an annual trip, if you will. Within that, there was a tour of the campus, of course, but beyond that, there was a workshop really talking globally about the university systems, about just some general understandings of how to get to higher education and what careers may come from that. There were some discussions of financial aid, things of that nature that I think are very informative for our students. And I always, enjoy hearing their comments, their questions, their wishes, their aspirations. Anyway, it's become a bit of an annual tradition. And I think for many, many of our students, Channel Islands becomes a very, very quality option close to home with some relevant careers and majors and programming that I think could be the right fit for a number of our students, at least to consider. Always my gratitude goes to Miss Inda, our school counselor, who facilitated the trip, attended the trip, and to our parent chaperones. We had quite a few of them, and it was really nice to see parents come along and actually be with one another, which was really nice. I know many of these parents have known each other for many years as their kids have grown up with us, and so it was nice for them to connect and just have an opportunity to be a part of that with us and with our students. So I'm just very appreciative, and I think it's part of our ongoing efforts to promote opportunities beyond even high school for our students, give them a long range view of where they can go. The next item that I wanted to bring up was our PALI Institute. And I know that we've in the past brought on broader presentations, but we did have our PALI overnight, sixth grade overnight trip that happened Wednesday, November 5th through Friday, November 7th. This is our sixth grade, incredible community building, outdoor learning, ropes courses, wonderful opportunities to just make memories. As always, just a great deal of gratitude to Mrs. Davis, who's been kind of at the helm facilitating, but also Mrs. Roberson, who's done the same now for several years. Both of them have been very giving of their time, and I just appreciate the fact that they continue to make that a priority and really think that it's a wonderful way that kids can not only build memories, but get to know each other better and have a really wonderful experience. And of course, to our families that support and partner with us to make this come together. So very appreciative. Hopefully in the near future, we can have a more robust presentation with kids that can share a little bit of what their learnings happen to be. Much of my topics around learning engagement will come later in the CAS report, but I just wanted to transition to facilities. One of our major undertakings is we've been on this path to analyzing the viability of an on-site water treatment and delivery system. And that is something that we're currently undertaking and seriously exploring and looking to move ahead. The bid process was completed on October 30th. We did have 5 bids submitted. The lowest bid, unfortunately, withdrew. So we moved to the second lowest bid, and that was Valor Construction. And they were issued a notice of intent on October 30th and a notice of award on November 14th. So they've been very much a part of the conversation, and a few of the other slides are really just a reference point to what that system could look like. So we're currently finalizing a construction schedule as we finalize a few of the key final details. And so we're looking forward to making this a viable project for ourselves in the coming weeks. So more to come on that. And I look forward to providing the board with additional information. Attendance. So attendance, I want to remind our board that 2 years ago, we set our sights on 95%. We accomplished 95. Last year, we set our sights on 96%. We were very fortunate to accomplish that. This year, we're looking at 97%. That's really a goal that we wanted to commit to. It's ambitious, but I think it's worthwhile. I'll mention it a little more later. But as you can see from our 3 months data, we are trending well to sustain that goal. And that's really what we've set our sights on. Part of our broader Success by the Numbers initiative is to really promote attendance by trying to limit our inattendance to 7 days or less. And we know that life happens, illnesses or other life conditions do happen, but we know from everything anecdotally here or big picture research that students being in school just betters their outcomes. And we want to make those and set off good habits and appreciate the families really leaning into it with us. So it's been wonderful to see us get to a solid start this year, and looking forward to sustaining that throughout the year. Next, next, I wanted to just review some upcoming events. I wanted to make note, this one already happened, but November 10th, sometimes I get asked, how come we didn't have school? Not by the kids. The kids always enjoy that, but by the parents. And, it's, we love, and I know I've been very much a proponent of continuous learning, continuous uninterrupted learning. It's very important for kids to have a good routine, and families to have that routine as well. But we do have a few days. November 10th was one of them, where we gather for professional learning. And it's a real opportunity for our teachers to just engage in deep work, analyzing their practices, and really coming together with formalized plans that we then use to cover the time period to our next day or our next time period. So we really have been on a cycle of short-term goals that are really intending to drive our plans forward. So I just wanted to make mention of that. We are in the middle of our Mesa Cares campaign. That kicked off November 5th, and we're looking to conclude that December 5th. It's a little earlier than the past, but we didn't want to get to the busyness of the holidays without really coming together and putting everything in place so that some of our families could receive some of those things earlier in the year and in the season. We do have our November 24th to 28th, our fall break coming up next week. That aligns, of course, with Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday. We do have a Camarillo Cast Christmas Parade participation, December 13th. Looking forward to sharing more details on that. We've put that out to our families. We've had a wonderful turnout every year, and we're expecting this year to be no different. And then that'll be a quick sprint to the 22nd through the 5th, where we'll have winter break. And then again, we have January 5th, which is also Professional Learning Day for our staff, where we're being very thoughtful about the placement of those days. And the kids now I will say this, the kids have now for a couple of years now have appreciated that Monday off. I hear it all the time from them. But and the staff is hard at work that day and making plans and really trying to get our year to a good solid start, our new calendar year, that is. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude my superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ramirez. So with that, let's move on to the next item. Board member reports and communications. Does anybody have anything with regards to correspondence, board members' reports, and board members' interests or concerns?
Not for me.
Okay, everybody's good? Okay, with that, we'll move on. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
May I please have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Campbell said.
Okay, I didn't hear. Okay, Dr. Canby. Any discussion? Nope. Okay. Okay, with that, go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay. motion
Aye.
carries. Okay. Now let's move on to information and discussion, right? So the annual assessment data report, and that will be Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Huff. Much appreciated. So want to, we've received our assessment data a few months back. We received the preliminary, and it's been since publicly released. So, and I know that this presentation has been on the agenda, for some time. So I did want to jump into the last 2 years of comparative data. And the CAS results really are year end. And schools traditionally take them in May through June. And we know that we always want to improve. We always want to build on our last year's performance, both at the individual student level, at the individual grade level, and also by cohort. So I bring that forward because there's a lot more data that underlies this data. This is really big picture data. There is data that really talks about student groups. There's data that talks about more historical elements, and there is one piece of that embedded that I wanted to highlight. But you'll see in your screen the 2023, 2024, which would have been 2 years ago now. And then in comparison to last year's summative data. And so our trend line continues to be positive. I wanted to make note of a few specific grade levels where I wanted to call out some attention. But just before we get to that, I'd like to move forward just with historically. The 2024-2025 school year marks the 10th year that CASP has been with us. So that's a significant sample size. It's a significant sample size. Of course, you'll see from this particular trend here that we had a pretty significant social, cultural world event. And, I keep calling that out because, as I like to say, especially working with our students and families, the pandemic has receded, and I'm glad that that's the case. But certainly the impact that occurred and has occurred for our students, at least many of us as professionals still realize that there was a disproportionate impact for some versus others. I think it was an impact for all, but certainly for some more than others. And certainly it shows up in our learning. However, I think we have done really well, at least in most areas, to be able to reverse that trend line. So one thing that I'm particularly proud of is that, as you see, just from the graphic alone, the trend line is moving in the right direction overall, not maybe to everybody's satisfaction, because we all want the best for our students, but it is trending well. And there is an embedded link, which I'm hoping that we are able to see, but if not, we'll come back and reference. I wanted to call out that the results of this year's data do actually track higher than the historical data that we had 10 years ago on the ELA side. Math is a different topic, and that's not where we would like to be, but it is important to highlight just that's where we are for the moment. So anyway, I just wanted to give that cultural and historical perspective as we talk about this particular year's data. So just unpacking this year's data, you can see there what it breaks down overall in terms of the grade by grade distribution. One thing that I'm very heartened about is that the trend line for third and fourth grade ELA continues to stay, relatively strong. I've always viewed third grade as being really a representation of all the grades before it, because it's the first standardized testing year. But that result there shows one of the highest achievement rates in years for Mesa. And I'm very proud of that work, and very, very grateful to our staff and our families who've contributed to that, of course. But I say that because I think that the goal moving forward is to hold and add, to make sure that we are avoiding any regression year over year, cohort to cohort. That really has been a lot of what we've discussed with our staff internally. The other thing that I'll call out is, the ongoing achievement of where our kids are as the cohorts move along. So I really want to call out our 8th grade class last year's, that as they're exiting Mesa, there was significant growth from prior year, and I'd like to believe that it's a good way of sending off our students more and more prepared each year. So next slide, please. All right. So in this particular one, this is a year-to-year comparison. So this is a breakdown by bands, right? This particular one is year-to-year comparison. These are not the same cohorts, of course. their performance over 2 years. And what we want to see is that the number at the far left with the standard not met continues to decline. We want to see that number continue to drop. That means that we're seeing greater numbers shift to the left, right? So standard met, we want to see an increase there year over year and holding continually to the standard exceeded wherever that's possible. But what we definitely want to see is that less and less students are falling into that category of standard not met, which means that they are in the lowest quadrant of achievement. And so this is for ELA, and we did experience a drop in 4.6%, an increase in nearly met, and that may not feel like it's an increase, but that most likely means that kids went from the lowest quarter and moved up a band, and we want to see that ongoing growth. Next slide. In math, similarly, and you see it broken down this way, we want to see, of course, our achievement continue to grow with greater numbers to the left, but we do want to see those declines in the lowest quadrant. Math has proven to be, as across the nation, a big challenge, and we're trying to tackle it head on here. We, as the board is aware, we've had an implementation of a new curriculum, and I think that has brought a new renewed interest, vigor, and passion for math in a way that I think is going to be very beneficial over time. But we need to continue, and I'll speak more about that in relation to our Success by the Numbers initiative. But we know that this is something that's stubborn. We also know that math tends to build on itself. So any gaps in skills are exacerbated or highlighted as the years go along. And we also know that there's my biggest concern is that we don't want students to be locked out of career options and career opportunities or life opportunities as they reach adulthood because of it. So we're doing everything we can to really address this issue head on. Our professional development is very much centered on continued effort and ongoing implementation of our math instruction. And I think it's for the better. Next slide, please. This is a year-to-year comparison. It's a little bit of a different look. This one is by grade level, and this captures standard met and standard exceeded. So I reference the grade 3 because a year ago, now granted, these are different cohorts, but we see that the cohort, the grade 3 cohort in 23-24 was at 41% in ELA. This past year, 53%. So that's a good, significant gain. Anything that exceeds that 3 to 5 range, I think is noteworthy. Our grade 4, similarly, year to year. Grade 5, unfortunately, we did backslide in that grade, and that's something that we've had many honest and candid conversations with our staff, and they've been very, very receptive and have poured over the data to find out how that trend line came to be. Grade 6, as you can see, and then in grade 7, slight regression, but you know we had some of the highest performances in years, and then in grade 8, you can see the increase year over year. Again, these are different cohorts, but important to know that we have invested for the last several years a number of resources and efforts to make sure that literacy is a big focal point. And not represented here because there's no standardized testing is TK through 2, where many of our foundational literacy initiatives have centered. But I'd like to believe that those are paying off as the cohorts are coming into grades 3 and 4. And our goal, correct. And that's why my analysis of this is that we're seeing that come together year after year as these cohorts do reach those tested grades. And we want to see that continue, of course, throughout the years from 3 and onward.
Drop, yeah.
Correct, and not regress. Correct, absolutely.
I think another thing I want to point out, unless you're going to point it out, is that if you do look at the grades and then you look at the next year, in every instance, just look before I say that again, but I'm pretty sure it's true, it increases. So when they were in grade 3 in 2023 and 24, and then when they were then in grade 4 in 24, 25, in every instance in both ELA and math, they had gains.
You're looking at it by cohort. Yes, and the way to look at it, because it's not disaggregated this way, is to look basically diagonally to the right. Yes, correct.
Every single
Yes.
grade from 3 to 8th has a gain.
Yes.
Which means those children only improved on their learning and those children in that grade did not decline. They only increased.
Correct. Collectively, yes.
Yeah.
And that's where the strategy that I just mentioned is really seen. And I'm glad you pointed it out this way, Mrs. Dryden. We want to make sure that our students don't regress as a cohort, right? And this doesn't see it that way. It's not displayed that way. This is one cohort compared to last year's cohort, and those are different kids. But what we want to see is that, and bear in mind, the test or the assessment naturally becomes more rigorous, and the cut points become more rigorous, as you can imagine. So it becomes harder from a scale score perspective to reach those performance bands. So even if a student were to get the same scale score one year and the next, they might fall into different bands. And typically it's because it gets more rigorous. And so that is part of the metrics or the underlying composition of the assessment. So, but yes, that is a way in which to look at it, Mrs. Dryden. It's the way that we look at it internally, is to see where were the kids, and our teachers do this like down to the student from the year prior. Where did they come in? Where did we start them, and where did they end up at the end of the year? And that's a way for us to look at it in terms of the kind of value that we're adding to these kids' experiences year over year. And that's the trend line that we want to continue to promote, although the numbers don't bear it out this way. Looking at them in this table, right? The next slide, to Mrs. Dryden's point, this one is related to, next slide, please. This one is related to math. And there we see, again, some good growth across grade levels. We're seeing more variability than we want to see, but we do want to see that those cohorts, again, grow across the board. And that's really what we're looking to do. Moving forward, these are the results for science. Science, we've seen that growth by grade 8, but we want to continue to see that growth. And we're really trying to, our middle school science program, which is where we have individualized credentialed teachers and the like. I think that's a real strength of our overall program. And I think the curriculum that we brought in only builds on that through a lot of hands-on learning. And we try to round that out with other experiences, right? So that kids grow not just a learning of science, but a love of science, because it is a wonderful way to promote some different forms of learning. So in this case, we just want to continue to see that growth, particularly by grade 8, but not exclusively. We want to see that growth earlier on. This, I think, speaks to the cohort that you were alluding to, Mrs. Dryden. So you see, for example, in grade, I don't think these are the right years here, but I'll have to circle back on these years because the years don't appear to be correct on this one. That I modified those. So I'll have to get an updated presentation on this and double check my years on this. I do apologize for that. Continue to the next slide. So I wanted to talk through the plans and actions and just spend the rest of my time really highlighting the work that we've done. I'll come back to this slide or I'll reference it in future slides, but I wanted to just highlight some key pieces, and I wanted to frame this by way of the LCAP. One thing that I'm very proud of is the first 2 points. One, we have a number of documents that have been really, at the center of the conversations we've had week to week, as staff members, week to week, month to month, and within our cycles, learning progressions. Teachers have literally laid out all the learnings for the year in all of our content areas so that there's greater and greater coherence from one classroom to the other and throughout the year. And in TK5, they're meeting weekly to talk about the pace of learning and down to the student level. We've been doing this for several years and we're only getting stronger and better at it. So I'm really thankful and grateful to our teachers because this is very, very diligent work that needs to be done at the student classroom level, and they've really embraced it. Our AVID initiative has now reached the lower grades, TK2. So we are now effectively a TK8 AVID school. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are trying to onboard strategies using that WICKER acronym, where we are really committing to specific learning routines and learning approaches that are intended to help kids have continuity from one grade level to the other with an eye toward college career readiness. We want to give kids every opportunity to really demonstrate their learning, to take on these hard challenges associated with learning, and that they can carry them on into high school and beyond. Organization, that we started with organization. We started with just those basics. We moved into note-taking, into active reading, writing exercises, things that are really about critical thinking that I think are really starting to show major dividends for us. And we're trying to make sure that happens as early as TK. And our teachers have really embraced it. So I'm appreciative of that. It's just very, very intentional and purposeful work. I want to just continue to speak to the fact that we've put a lot of resources into our foundational reading. And I think the data is suggesting that it's an investment that has paid off or is paying off. Next. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on the success by the numbers. I know that's something that I call out later as a scorecard. The scorecard is an accompaniment to the learning framework. We do have metrics there, and some of those metrics are really about state metrics, local metrics. So we need to just firm that up because it has existed for us. But where this came up as success by the numbers is, we wanted to really elicit the support of our parents and families as partners. We know we have that culturally. We know how the relationships work, but we wanted to make that even more clear. And to be even more candid about it, we wanted to really inspire a call to action within our parent group. And specifically, we wanted to really focus our attention on initiatives that made sense whenever we talked to our parents. So within that, we talked about one, attendance, right? 7 days or less. Two, we wanted to talk about the abilities for us to make literacy a real cornerstone. And I'm sorry, there it is. There it is. So if you take a look at this, our goal is 97%, but we wanted to really wrap it around skills. So the big 5 essential skills, those are broken down by grade. That is what our teachers have been messaging to our families. What are the core skills that our kids need to have by the time they leave that grade level? We just had parent conferences that are very much a part of the conversations that have been going on there. And reading, and more reading. I guess what you're hearing now from me more explicitly is that there's a full acknowledgement that we as a school will only go so far, and we want to really partner regardless of how our parents can engage with us. We want to meet them where they are, but we want to do it in a very clear, transparent way that allows us to be able to take their kids and work in conjunction. I'm not suggesting that we haven't done so historically, but I think now we need to just make that more and more crystal clear and transparent. So we set out some goals. Believe it or not, many of my kids have already anecdotally told me, and some of our teachers have, that some of our kids are already meeting these goals, right? They've already met them or exceeded them. And so we're continuing to make that a real hallmark of what we do. And I have to credit Mrs. Fisher for, her taking on that reading coordinator role in a very passionate way and really making this a real priority for us. So the success by the numbers is intended to lay out for us, and it's still coming together, metrics that we can really hone in on and that are easier to understand as a family member. Like, what is exactly that I need to walk out of here this school year having accomplished? And that's really the aim for the Success by the Numbers initiative. And we need to get behind it even further. We need to continue to promote it. We need to build out some more symbols for sure. But it is something that I think has a lot of promise for us. So let me pause there because I know that there's some commentary that some of you may have relative to this, and I want to just take some of that on.
I completely agree with regards to the reading. I think it's so important, and I think that you are doing a fantastic job along with administration and the teachers. I think this is fantastic. I would like to see a variety of genres being read by students. So it's not just a particular set of books like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but it's a variety of different, everything from history to just culture. And I mean, if you look at the list for Battle of the Books, that's just a great example of how it's such a wide range of books, which I love. So perhaps use kind of that as a model. And perhaps, because we can only have one team to compete or to be part of Battle of the Books, have a local sort of a replicate what they do at the county level here at the district level to sort of encourage the kids to read a variety of different books.
Yeah, I'm going to be very candid about this. I think that we have to win this ongoing struggle of what it means to be literate, and more specifically, this battle over screen time. I intend to be much more forthright and intentional in saying those things out loud because I think that many bad habits have set in for our kids, and it's a form that I think we didn't always anticipate. I think since the pandemic onward, I've seen it grow more intently, and so I'm doing my part, and I think all of our staff is very well aware. I think to that end, I know the conversation isn't about screen time. I understand that, but I think that there are many distractions for our kids that in the end don't nearly serve them as well. And I think we are a kind of community where we can say that and not be controversial about it, and rather say, I invite the questions of why I say that. I say that because I see it every single day. I think we need to have more opportunity, and I think our staff does a wonderful job of balancing screen time, not always easy to do, our cell phone policy and the like. But I think what it invites is, then what do I do if you're a student? Then what should I spend my time on? Believe it or not, those are questions that kids literally ask me. And I think that there has to be an invitation, an expectation. I'm more and more interested in our families joining us in saying, it's not just about saying no to something, but it's what am I saying yes to? And I think what we're looking to do is restock our library, promote, really make literacy popular and inviting. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly about graphic novels, which is what Diary of a Wimpy Kid might be. But if given the alternative, and sometimes it is, of that or a screen or that or an alternative, I'll take that as a starting point, because then it becomes a gateway to other graphic novels and eventually novels, because I think that that's just where we are right now. And we're battling some difficult forces, some very addictive forces that I think we do well to monitor here, but I want to make sure that we get our parents on board with understanding what we're trying to accomplish more fully. And so we're going to just play our part and message appropriately, but we're trying to really make this a priority. And our kids are just enthusiastic. I'll just share one of the things that we're going to do. I'm currently finishing up a design in conjunction with Mrs. Fisher, where there's going to be shirts that are going to be given to the kids, saying something to the effect of, I completed the Mesa Reading Challenge, with a shirt that they can wear here proudly. And that'll be one of many symbols that we're looking to build up, so that there is cultures are built on symbols, what we see and how we are rewarded for our good behavior. And it's not just about kids, right? It's just about all of us as people. And that is going to be increasingly what we're going to aim for, is rewarding our kids, giving them a point of pride and a point of connection around something that they earned. And I think this is where, I'm speaking more as a parent now than as an administrator, but I say that because I think that this is just where we are. And in our community, we need to be stewards of that kind of feeling and motivation for our kids. So that's really where the success by the numbers comes from. And to try to make it really clear as we talk with our parents and families about what we're trying to accomplish and how they play a massive role in everything that we do, right? And we just need to understand what we can control as a staff and where that begins to interplay with the home front, right? Regardless of what that home unit or family unit looks like. And so I think that's I want to be very cautious not to say that it needs to look one way or another, but it's just an acceptance that whatever contribution you can make, we're going to make it, and we're going to meet you at that point.
A lot of it is, the parenting, and sometimes it's hard because what happens at home, you have no control over that. But whatever the school can do to encourage the variety of different books would be great.
Well, I think another thing, not necessarily the variety, because I agree with Dr. Maris. We want the kids to read. My kid loves one genre. He wants to read several books that are 500 pages of that genre. All for it. Great. Love it. But I think what builds more than just reading is not necessarily a competition, but maybe it's a book club. So several kids can all read the same genre that they all love and then talk about it. And for some kids, that might be this genre. For another type of kids, it might be another. And as long as they're talking to each other about whatever that similarity of genre that they love to read is, I think that's where you see them make connections and grow. So, there could be a book club. I'm sure Mrs. Fisher would probably love it if a junior high had a book club where all these, 2 or 3 kids all read the same book and they just sit and talk about the book they're reading. Maybe your duties, when they hear kids talking about books they're reading on the playground, that's a positive referral. You guys are talking about this book, during recess? Awesome. Token, right? Like, appreciate that you're talking about things outside of a game or something, on the playground. I mean, those are little tiny opportunities that we can help them connect those dots and see, oh yeah, that's really important. Oh, I love to read too. That could be a conversation with an adult and a child.
Yeah, I don't know that I know that there isn't one way. There's many, many ways and many approaches that will work. Kids are motivated through different means. And all I'm trying to do from my vantage point is really challenge us to be able to make this a priority, challenge us to make this something that isn't just about this year or the near term, but it's a long-term commitment, a long-term haul, because we want to be able to continue to just get better and better. And it's like a flywheel. Once you get it really going, it'll sustain its momentum if we caretake for it and we prioritize it. So I think this is where this success by the numbers has been very well received. Our staff has been very instrumental to defining it, particularly those big ideas. We want mathematical fluency, just like we talk about literary fluency. We want mathematical fluency so that kids have an ease with numbers and they understand the patterns that are just naturally built into mathematics. They don't always see it that way. And so I think that there is a big charge, and our teachers are doing well to develop fluency within that critical thinking push. And so those are just, I can go on and on about that, but I think that these are the kinds of strategic moves and shifts that we're trying to make now to invest in not just test scores, because I think that's, unfortunately, it's what the public sees, but more importantly, or as importantly, what we experience here when it comes to learning. And I think that's the bigger motivator for me. It's a cultural shift that's sustainable based on some small commitments that are going to pay off day over day, year over year. And you know, again, this is a way of laying it out for parents in a way that's clearer because parents are busy. You know, jobs, professions, responsibilities. I get it. But it is also important to acknowledge that if we lose track of time, we're not going to get that back. And we need to build on this and not operate on a crisis mentality if a few years down the road we're not where we need to be, because those are not easy things to overcome. And that's what we've seen, and we want to make sure that we eliminate those needs to think of things in a very emergency or panic situation.
Agreement with the math fluency and, you know, advancing kids that are interested in math and learning more about math. So everything from getting kids that are not performing at level to having kids that are and helping them advance. So, and it takes a lot of work, I know.
It does. But, you know, on that note, we have built out our team. I wanted to highlight a few things, and that is just our ability to continue to stay with the really positive culture that we have. You know, we're very fortunate. We've built and we've been able to sustain a fairly positive culture, not free of mistakes, but one that is really about caring and kindness. Our kids have noticed that, our parents have as well. Relationships are huge here. And but sometimes, you know, we have instances where we need more. And so I want to share that our counseling team has been phenomenal this year. And I want to really call them out. Aaron Stewart, who is a school psychologist, Mariela Inda, who is our school counselor, and another new member of our team is Ramona Ramirez, who's also a school counselor, working with some, we partner with MUPU on her position, but they've been really great. We're going to start doing small social skills groups coming up here right after the break. They're consulting with teachers in the classroom just to make sure that things are going well, that we're attending to kids on an individual basis. It's hard work, but it's work that has resulted in some really great outcomes that allow more of our attention to go to learning than to other things like behaviors that we don't want to see. And I think that's something that I want to commend. And Ms. Inda in particular has the whole college career component that she's working on, particularly with our middle schoolers, fail rates, whatever the case might be. You know, she's been wonderful at being able to tend to these kids. And then just relationship building. You should see her on a daily basis. It's like she's like the Pied Piper. She walks around and the kids just kind of find her, or they're tracking her down somewhere, because I think of her positivity and the kind of support that she's lent them just on a personal basis. And all of that, we want to steer it toward better learning, better classrooms, more engagement, more partnership, better relationships. That's the end goal for us. And then I'll just conclude with, you know, some of our major initiatives. Avid continues to be a big component. We've partnered with them now for several years. They've brought on facilitators to help us drive our learning and our commitments. The scorecard is something that has to be a priority for me. I'm looking to finalize this here from its draft form to something that's more presentable and available to the public. And then we continue to look at our local agencies here for more opportunities for services or opportunities to come into Mesa, whether it be community colleges, local universities, and the like, as I mentioned before. So, you know, we've got a lot going on, but we want to really be strategic with our efforts. So with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you very much. Very informative.
I just wanted to take just a minute to discuss, like, because I went to the website that has the dashboards. I was comparing our ELA scores and our math scores to other very local districts like Pleasant Valley and Somas and Oxnard. And I think that, you know, we've really improved. We're working on it, and I think it's really commendable to see, you know, there's a big fluctuation in just that little circle I mentioned. You know, we're not the top and we're not the bottom, but there is quite a difference in our neighboring, literally adjacent, districts. And so I think when we just stick with these programs and we continue to put our efforts in, continuous education for not just our students, but our staff, that's where we're going to continue to see these gains. Looking especially at the cohort level, I think is really important because that takes away a variable, right? And so then we're looking and saying, how did we impact that cohort? How did they continue their learning? How did it go for them? And I just wanted to mention, and it's so easy on the dashboard to do that. So I encourage anybody who really wants to do that. You can select 3 schools or districts to compare at a time. It shows you how everybody's doing with these standards of, met, exceeded, nearly met, or didn't. But I think we show not well because we're not the top, but we are definitely far from the bottom. So I do think that's an important thing just to call out. I know we looked at our numbers, and to me, as somebody who looks at math, and I go, gosh, less than half, that is incredibly sad for me as a person who loves math, that less than half of our students are not meeting that standard. And then I look just very locally and I say, oh, we are not the only one. Everybody is struggling with that standard. It really brings it home to what we're talking about, these different time periods of life right now that all of these students are recovering from and have that gap of learning from. And so I think perspective is important when we look at these numbers. I'm not happy with 40%. I want to increase so much more than 40%, but you can only improve so much at a time. Kids can only absorb so much at a time. So it's making sure that we're putting all of those resources in place for them. And so I just wanted to make that note, to make sure that, we know and others know that I do think, we're trying to do the long game, right? But we're not trying to leave behind any cohort that we currently have, which I think is important.
Anything else? No? Okay. So with that, thank you, Dr. Ramirez. We'll move on to the public hearing. So, question. So with this, we just go each one. And do you have a time frame? Open and close. Are we setting it for a time or no? Got it. Okay, awesome. Okay. So we'll start with the first one for public hearing. So the first item is for AB 1200, which is the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Teachers Association, MUTA, disclosure, consideration, and public comment regarding the proposed collective bargaining agreements with the Mesa's Teachers Union Association for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Presented included public disclosure of major provisions of the proposed agreement, including costs to be incurred by the district, followed by an opportunity for public comment. So I'll open it up for discussion.
At the time.
Oh, at the time, it's 7:57. Okay, is there any comment? Discussion? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is for the tentative collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Teachers Association, MUTA. And we'll open that up again, 7:57. Any comment? Nope. Okay, nothing online. We'll move on to the next item. So it's for AB 1200, disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Support Team, MUST, and public comment regarding the proposed collective bargaining agreements with the agreement with Mesa Union Support Team, MUST, for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Presentation included public disclosure of major provisions of the proposed agreement, including costs to be incurred by the district, followed by the opportunity for public comment. So I'm going to open this up at 7:58 for any comments. Nothing online? Nothing? Okay. Okay, we'll close that and we'll move on to the last item for public hearing is the tentative collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Support Team, MUST. And open that up for comment. 7:58. Nothing online? No comment? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and close it. So we will now move on to action and discussion items. So the first item is the consideration for the approval of the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Teachers Association, MUTA, in accordance with AB 1200, AB 27546, for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Public disclosure major provisions, proposed agreement, including costs to be incurred by the district. May I please have a motion?
So move.
May I please have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? No?
I'll only make one comment, and that is that, our negotiations, went, very well. And both bargaining units, represented themselves extremely collaboratively and graciously, and were very solution oriented, and, just wanted to make sure that the board, heard, a little bit about how those negotiations took place, and I'm very, grateful to have reached a good two-way, agreement.
I'd like to also mention that it was such a quick agreement, a resolution, which is great because then it allows the district, the administration to focus their time in other matters. So that's also very, very positive.
Absolutely. Okay, any other discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion, motion passed. Okay, let's move on to the next item. So it's the consideration for the approval of the tentative bargaining agreement with Mesa Union School District and Mesa Union Teachers Association, MUTA, for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. May I please have a motion? To approve?
Make a motion.
Okay. May I please have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion with regards to this one? Okay, if there's no discussion. Go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next item is the consideration of the approval of the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with Mesa Union Support Team, MUST, in accordance with AB 1200, AB 27546 for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Public disclosure major provisions of proposed agreement, including costs to be incurred by the district. With this one, may I please have a motion
I'll make a motion.
and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion with regards to this item? No? Hearing no discussion, okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so for the next one is the consideration of the approval of the tentative bargaining agreement with Mesa Union School District and Mesa Union Support Team MUST for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. May I please have a motion to approve?
I so move.
May I please have a second?
I'll second the
Second.
motion.
Okay, please second. Canby, Dr. Canby, or, okay, Dr. Canby, second. Okay, any discussion with regards to this? Okay, if no other discussion, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to next item, which is the consideration of adoption of resolution number 25-26-05 regarding the annual and 5-year accounting of development fees for fiscal year of 2024 through 2025 per GC 66001 sub D. And then do I just go in with this, with the supporting? No? Okay,
No, you can bring it up.
okay, so may I please have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? No discussion with regards to this? Okay, so if not, then we'll go ahead and proceed to vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
motion carries. Okay, next item, consideration of the approval of the proposal from the Venco Western Inc. for fertilization system. May I please have a motion? Approve the proposal.
for Western.
Okay, may I please have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion with regards to this?
I have a question, because this is just the installation of a fertilization, basically tank to do an injection into the system. Does this also include an amount of time of supplying that fertilizer, or is this just the installation?
This is just the installation. And really the system is intended to give us some versatility around it, but the material, whatever is fed into the system is a separate cost.
And it's being paid from the deferred maintenance fund. Any other discussion? If not, okay, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. So on to the next one. It's the consideration of the approval of the notice of intent to award contract to Valor Construction, Inc. for the water line installation project. May I please have a motion?
Make a motion.
May I please have a second?
Second.
Dr. Camby or Jeannie? Okay, Dr. Camby. All right, and we'll open that for any discussion.
Only that as we discussed, we're going to move forward with, or the proposal would be to move forward with Valor. And included in this item is, as a supporting document, is the withdrawal letter, given that we are moving with the second lowest bid. So I just wanted to make sure that it was part of the record.
Okay, and this will be paid with the O measure bonds, the Measure O bonds.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it would be part of our bond program.
Okay, any other discussion?
Question. After the payment of this, how much money would we have left in this fund? Do you know approximately?
I can give an update in December as part of first dinner.
Okay.
Update on. I don't know that now.
Next.
If we can wait until December, that'd be
Yeah, I would rather give a more active.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll go on and vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Next item is the consideration of approval of the estimate from the West Coast Water Solutions. May I please have a motion
To make a motion.
and a second?
I'll second.
And is there any discussions or questions?
Only that this is a second component to the, we are providing a water pump as a district buy, and the district is partnering with Coast Water Solutions, who also happen to undertake the design of the system. And this is based on their recommendations. We actually looked at a few other contractors, and their cost came in anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 less.
And in terms of the equipment being used, also Xylem is a very quality brand, what they're proposing.
I know several industrial people.
Is there any other questions or discussions with regards to this item? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? Okay, motion passed. So the next item is the consideration of approval of the renewal agreement with Paper Learning. May I please have a motion to approve?
I so move.
And a second, please.
I'll second the motion.
Discussions or questions?
How many years is this agreement for again?
It's only for a 1-year renewal.
1 year.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wanted to make mention that dating back to last year, we changed our service contract or service agreement with Paper Learning. So this is an amount not to exceed. And so effectively it becomes a pay-as-you-go support. I've noticed or I've seen now multiple years of trend lines that it's really more heavily used in English language or social studies, particularly in the middle school. And I think that it still has a purpose, but it doesn't lock us into a cost that as we would with other licenses, that where there's the risk of not using them on a consistent basis. This is only pay as you go.
Well, the per hour is pay as you go, but there is also an amount per student. But we don't
Correct.
do the entire school, we just do that grade level. that utilizes
Correct, correct. It is a flat licensing fee, that there was no workaround around that, but yes, to the core of the services, it is on a service model, in a service model as opposed to exclusively per license.
Did we update the administrative typo in that contract?
Not yet. I still need to reach out to them to clarify that point. The reference that Mrs. Dryden is making is to the district's address, correct?
If I remember correctly, last year it was about 25,000. Last year's contract with paper, wasn't it about $25,000?
No, it was actually the same amount.
Uh-huh.
Contract is.
And based on last year's usage is what they estimated it being around 13,000.
Correct, yes, yes.
So
It
if
was
we
enough
use it
to,
saying this year's, last year, it will cost 13, but we do have a hard not to exceed, so that if there is more per hourly usage, that we know that cap won't be exceeded.
that is the exact interpretation. So there is a little bit of a buffer in the event that our usage grows, so that there isn't a hard disconnect for students. And at the same time, we don't spend more that we're not using. So I think it's a good arrangement for both parties. And, but it was not 25,000. It was that 13,000 figure that was there from last year. So that becomes our new baseline. And, you know, we'll moderate based on that, but there's an, as Mrs. Dryden mentioned, amount not to exceed.
Mhm.
Okay, is there any other discussion with regards to this? Okay, if not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor?
Alright.
Motion carries. Okay, next item, consideration of the approval of the fourth grade field trip request to the San Fernando Mission. Please have a motion
I so move.
and a
I'll
second.
second.
Any
second.
discussion? No? Okay, there's no discussion. Go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so future items for future consideration is the first interim report and the annual reorganization. And our future meeting will be next month, which will be Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. And that'll also be a board reorganization meeting. And with nothing else left, we'll adjourn at 8:12 p.m.